But not
Yeah,
everyone
that
can
you're not
be
seeing it.
vulnerable and honest. Sashel was talking about being afraid of being vulnerable on the internet. That is so real. That is so real. Putting these episodes up, editing them, and putting them up for me, my heart is racing every time because I'm like, I don't know if I want to share this with people. But I've gotten to the point in my life, and my co-hosts, I hopefully agree because they're here,
I
where
almost cried today.
yes,
Okay.
seriously,
Like you saw, I was like,
yes. So, if you've been watching our episodes, which we say this every time, but I feel it every time. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you.
Like, there are people watching that I never thought were gonna watch this, and
Yeah.
it's given me motivation to keep going. It's given me motivation to keep doing it. So thank you guys so much. And today we have a present. We have a present for everyone, and I wanted to do this specifically because the last couple of podcasts have kind of geared a little negative. Just talking about, not everything in life is positive, right? Like just talking about some things that we deal with. But today, I thought it would be great after all that negativity to talk about how we handle it, how we deal with it. And not only just that, but I want to check in with you guys. So today is going to be a mental health check. We're going to talk about where we've come from with our mental health. We're going to talk about where it's led, and we're going to talk about with how we're dealing with it now as adults and as YouTubers. Big air quotes on that one, guys. Big air quotes. I don't think a lot of people who are watching, which are mostly people who we know, our friends and family, and we got some randoms out there. We see you. We love you.
Yeah.
But we got some randoms out there. You guys just might not know this stuff. I mean, and it is a little scary to be putting it out there for ourselves, but we do think that it is something that people need to hear, and it will help. I genuinely think that our stories could help, so we're gonna put them out there, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's not too what do you call it? Sappy? Like
I don't know.
I
Are we
call
gonna
it
cry today?
terrifying.
I call it mushy.
Are we gonna cry on the podcast? No, we're not
Hopefully
gonna
not. But we do want to express ourselves.
cry. But I'll start things off just as I tend to do. Talking about like where I came from. And
He's the cutest.
because I've known Sashel for a long time, she has been able to see the products of this and then also where it's gone. So I think that this is a really cool, unique conversation that we're going to have, at least about ourselves, because we know a lot about each other. But when I was younger, and I'm talking this before maybe I met even Sashel, I was so self-conscious. My self-esteem was literally the lowest. I was bullied in a way, and I don't talk about, I'm a big dude. I have a lot of confidence. Telling people that I was bullied is not something I like to do. But I was bullied in such a way that I was ostracized by the entire population of my school. I was given names that even as adults would not stand. Like, you shouldn't call anyone these things. And it turned into me hating myself. Like, full on, in every way you can imagine, hating myself.
Sure.
Right? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because of where I am now. I love myself.
Yeah.
I love who I am. I love my friends. I love my family. I love you guys. Like there's so much love in my heart. And to come from that place to this place is the reason we're having this podcast, because I know my lovely co-hosts also have taken their journeys. And I think that if you're willing to stay and listen today, that you're gonna hear some things that might help you get over the same things. Hating yourself, I think, is an innately human thing. I think perfection is all around us. It's advertised all around us constantly. And we are constantly holding ourselves to standards that may not be realistic or even good for you as a person.
Right.
So I just wanted to start off with my own little story. I'll let you guys before I rant.
Yeah. I mean, coming as a child, I mean, ooh, as a child I really didn't have a sense of self. I was, if you can believe it, the most shy child.
Sashel being shy. What?
I know. Like literally, I remember being in elementary school and just like not talking ever.
Same Z's,
Like
bro.
not even like if I had to use a
Wow.
laboratory, I wouldn't raise my hand because I had like such high social
Anxiety. Oh my
anxiety
god, dude.
of
How
like
old?
being judged. And this is since like 5 to 7,
Right.
5 to 7. Like maybe 4 to 7. I'm not really sure.
Wow.
Cause do I remember
Yeah,
preschool?
time.
Not
What's
really.
time?
Uh,
What
what
is
i-
time?
what is time when you're a
Wow.
child?
Right.
But yeah, I do remember having crazy social anxiety and just not feeling like a person, not feeling um feeling like I was just too separate from
Different.
everyone around me
Mm.
and that everyone would judge me for every little
Every
thing.
little. And you know what,
Every
Sash?
little thing.
If you agree with me, let me know. But I think that we talk a lot about mixed stuff on here. I do think that that level of self awareness that young is inherent in being mixed race because you are forced to identify yourself younger than most people. Because like again, like what are you, black or white? How are you going to talk? Black or white? How are you going to act?
Whoa.
Black or white? And that's from the
Right.
second that we enter society, which is usually kindergarten, preschool for most people. From the second we entered society, we had to choose who we were going to be, and we're too young to even understand what that's supposed to look like.
Because you started with
Yeah.
your differences, like just visibly with the world you were surrounded by.
We wear it on our
Yeah,
skin.
yeah, there was no real. So as children, and as we've talked about before, children are very blunt.
Right.
Wow.
So I mean, when you're different as a child and other children can't relate to you, they pick on you, right?
Viciously.
Um Viciously.
Viciously.
They are vicious, but
Yes.
they're children, so
Right.
we forgive it. It's
Right.
fine. Um but as a child also at the time, like I just felt like there was no place for me.
Yep.
Therefore, I created an inner safe place. Like I was a crazy kid at home, like
Right.
running around yelling,
Energetic.
screaming,
Right.
like
Right. Same.
no
Yep.
shyness at all. But as soon as I was in public, I was like, nope, I'm just
Shut
not
down.
going to say anything
And
ever.
I think it's important that people know that we aren't qualifying ourselves as different. That is something that we were told. Like we were too young to know that what we were doing was different, right? So when you're quiet in class and a bunch of kids tell you you're weird because you're quiet, you are now separating yourself. You are now different, right? Like
Right.
without your own judgment of it, you are now being placed different. And I think when you're a kid, it can be really damaging to your psyche, man. Because, Sasha talks about being shy. I was similar, but also like when people would talk to me, I would get so excited that someone was talking to me that I would hyper, like I would go the like full swing in the other direction. Like, oh, you want to go? You want to play? Oh, you want to? Oh, I have all these toys. Do you want me to share with you? Oh, and it just
Take them all.
right. And people are like, what the hell, man? You're like, you need to chill. Like, what is wrong with you? And I think that when you're young like that, it's easy to fall into that pit hole of like, something's wrong with me. Something has to be wrong with me. Like, otherwise, why wouldn't nobody like me? Like, something has to be wrong with
Right.
me. And you know what? We talk a lot about our parents on this show. And I'm going to say this early and very clearly. My mother and my father at the time is my stepdad, but now I call him dad. We'll just clarify that now. Were the most loving and supportive people they could ever have been. They loved me unconditionally, but there are some things that they just could not understand. I couldn't explain it to them, and then they couldn't inherently know it about themselves because they
Sure.
come from a different place. So like even though you could ask like, "Oh, where was your support? Why did you feel this way? Where were the people surrounding you helping you?" They were there. It just didn't matter. Oh, I think your mic dropped, girl.
A few moments later.
Yeah, I was just saying how we did have support. It wasn't from a lack of support. It wasn't like,
Right.
trouble at home.
Yeah, no, my mother was the most supportive. Like I would come home crying because my feelings were hurt because kids are mean. And she's like, "No, you're great. Like you're beautiful, don't worry about what other people say."
Right.
And as much as like I understand now that that's kind of what you say to comfort someone.
Right.
It
Yeah.
it, it is. But that doesn't mean, it works all the time on children. So like knowing that my mom loved me and knowing that my peers didn't, just had a different effect
It almost I don't want to say it made it
on my
worse, but
mentality.
it like
Ah, I had a very similar
it
experience.
was polarizing.
I definitely had like a strong home base of love. And I have, so there's me, I'm the middle child, my older sister and my younger sister all were like I don't know, we're very similar. And then my mom's very similar too. So I had this like variation of women who were all different than me that all like loved me for who I was. And then you throw my dad in there too, who's like a really great father figure.
So it's
So
like
when
you
I
had
went into
friends.
school and people didn't like me, I was like, good, I don't like you either because you don't like me. Ew.
It's like you had friends like bred like grown in your house. Like you had ingrown friends.
Thick as thieves.
Right. That's dope.
And I had like, so I had my older sister, and if I wanted that type of a friend where we were gonna like geek out about books or we were gonna like make an imaginary world, then I had my older sister. And then if I wanted to like be silly with my little sister, I had her as well. And then I had the different experience of having the three of us. Like that was a whole unique experience of friendship. Because with the two of them plus me added together, it created this like whole new dynamic of antics.
So did you, in your opinion, was it hard for you or easier for you to assimilate into the culture around you, regardless of how people felt about you, because you had like basically a group of friends that was never going anywhere?
It was really easy to assimilate. It was really hard to make meaningful connections that led somewhere else. So I could definitely like yes man my way through every social interaction. But then when it came to like, oh, but now we're going to have a play date outside of school, that I was really struggled making that happen.
I see.
Ah,
So were you labeled as different
interesting.
at school? Like different, like in any kind of a way?
I was labeled at no. So short answer is no. I was kind of like one of those free floaters. You know how there are kids who get along with everybody,
Right.
but they don't really belong to a group,
Yes.
but not in like a standout kind of way. It's just like, oh, sometimes she's here.
Right.
Funny enough, so to avoid being labeled as different, that was kind of my end game.
Right.
Why, like my end game was where you started. My end game was that person I wasn't hated by anyone, but I wasn't like as close as could be to anyone either. I was always friendly with every group, like because
Right.
my school was slightly cliquey, but not anything crazy. But I kind of like mingled with everyone, but was not like part of that core group of any friend group really.
This is kind of what I was going to say is like I think that these are all different steps of the same journey. I just feel like Dani might have started a little bit more advanced than we got. Not because of race or anything, but just, circumstance.
Yeah.
The things that I liked when I was a kid were weird. Like the things that I found interesting were considered weird at the time. So like I had no choice. Like whereas Sashel, I feel like just from what you said, it seemed like you went, oh, this is not what I like, and then you're like, okay, how can I make it work for myself? I was too, I don't know, stubborn, or just like maybe even too oblivious to realize that what I was doing was leading to where I was socially. So I just like stubbornly, pig-headedly kept being weird. Just the weird kid, right?
Right.
Yeah, I feel you on that. But the thing is about me is, as a child, I didn't really have any level of individuality. And then as I did get kind of a feel for who I was as a person, it was it was easy because I don't feel passionately about like many things. It
Right.
was easy to say, yeah, I like this enough to just do it if that's
Right.
what the people around me want to do.
Right.
And I never had an issue with that. So, yeah, so the people around me, like if they were really into anime, like that
Right.
happened for a while, then yeah, that's what I got into. And I learned that I really enjoyed it, but the thing is there's not many things that I hate.
Right.
Like I like to have a good time, and if it's fun, then I'll try it. I do
Right.
that with food. I do that with clothes. I do that with basically everything. And maybe that comes from just being mixed and not having and kind
Right.
of creating that individual culture. But it's almost like a I can't hate it if I haven't tried it kind of mindset.
Yes.
So I also do that in social situations.
Right.
And
That's
that's
cool.
kind of really how I've avoided being different or being seen as super different. And it made assimilation really easy
And
for
as you
me
grew up, as you got
as,
older.
yeah, as I got older and got good at it. As soon as I as soon as I started talking to people, I realized that I can be into basically anything they're into with no issues, and it was never any sweat off my back.
Right.
Like, trying something new is always fun, and if I don't like it,
Right.
then I can just say that, and those just aren't the people for me.
And I want to drop a quick disclaimer just because I don't want people to think that we're telling them to do this. I
Oh,
want you we
no.
are literally just telling you our perspectives going through it and how we handled it. We are three very different people sitting here in this podcast.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
as Sashel's saying that, all I'm doing is thinking about all the times that I tried to do that and it just didn't work. People
Yeah, I
just
was
did not
literally
like
gonna
me.
say, I would not advise this for everyone, because this is part of my truth.
Right.
And my truth says that I don't really hate anything that is a new experience.
Right.
Right.
And therefore, I didn't lose anything from doing this. But some people are really passionate about certain things. Like, honestly, like my passion for K pop
Mm.
is real.
Mhm.
And if someone, I
Yeah.
don't care what anyone thinks, that's what I like.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeehaw!
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Same.
it just that's a something that just is, you
Right.
know. Um
It's not going anywhere because of Jim or
yeah,
Jill.
I think just real
right.
like as adversely to how you were
Just
coming
random
up.
names.
As I was coming up, I had similar thing where we were both really shy and didn't talk to anyone. But then as I started talking to people, I realized that, oh, okay, if you are interested in the things that other people are interested in, and then you just, find a way to be interested in that, then you will have friends. The problem with my story is we moved a lot. So the people that I was trying to assimilate to changed constantly.
Right.
So that made it like really hard for me because when I went from like early elementary school into middle school, my middle school was much more predominantly white. We talk about this a lot. But that being so, like the interests were very different. The interests were completely changed. So then me going from watching Dragon Ball Z with kids from my school and it not being weird and then going to middle school and kids stealing my manga books and throwing them in the garbage because they were like, stop reading that weird stuff. Like, and then kids reporting me to the teachers because the manga girl had big boobies. And like, making it an actual problem for me in my life to just be the person that I
Just
wanted
be
to
you.
be. And
Yeah.
it got to the point where I believed them. I thought that what I was doing was wrong, fundamentally, because I wasn't fitting in, because I wasn't doing. And I think I heard a quote from somewhere. I'm sorry, I can't remember where I heard this quote, but the quote was, "Everyone spends their whole lives trying to fit in. And then they realized that to be special, you had to spend your whole life not. And I was just like, that's exactly where I spent my whole life trying to fit in,
Right.
trying to worm my way into these friend groups, trying to please popular kids, trying to, like there was actually a girl. This is a real story. There was a girl who called me her butler, and I would just do shit for her because she was popular, and I was just like, I wanted her to
Wow.
like me. So I would go to the lunchroom and give her my milk, and not because I liked her in any kind of way like that, but just because I was like, if I'm seen by this girl as cool, then and again, it wasn't even about popularity. For me, it's always been about friends. It's always been about finding people I can relate to and finding people that like would enjoy spending time with me. And by the time middle school came, it was like
Ah.
the darkest period for me. It was probably the period of my life that I was at my lowest. And it got to a point where I started hating. I started being resentful. I started being angry because these people were trying to force me to be something that I didn't want to be. And it started making me a little bit, I would say, on the wrong path. The path where instead of learning to love myself, I was allowing myself to hate everything else. And that really led to my depression. Because when you hate everything, when you hate your potential, when you don't know your self-worth, then you're willing to trade it in for nothing. And that's what I was doing for a long
So deep.
into high school, man. Like for a long time, I was giving away pieces of myself just to please people, just to make it so that somebody would pay attention to me or somebody would invest in me in any kind of a way. And it took a really long time. Like that didn't happen. It for all my trying, it didn't happen. So like me and Sashel had similar plans of attack. It doesn't always work out in the way that like people are going to be accepting of you, kind of following on. I think it's because Sashel, you got to stay in, at least like when you moved, like it was kind of like you were here for a long time, then you moved and you were here for a long time, and you really got to like actually like Sashel became a part of those people, whereas where I was always separate.
I think that I agree. We did have similar plans of attack. However, I think one of the main differences was that I found um a group of other people who were weird in different ways than I was, and that helped me really kind of gain not some insight, but kind of a little bit of acceptance
Right.
uh, into like my differentness. So I was like, oh, it's okay to be different. These people, like, it was just a random, average people
Right.
who like you were into something different, like anime or video games or board games or
For me, it
something
was
like
books. I loved
fair.
reading. I loved reading, and people. It was the beginning of the technology age, so people were like, why are
Right.
you reading a book?"
Yeah, so my first group of close friends, and like I know you said that I stayed in one place for a long time and then another, but my whole first place, and I stayed in a that middle space at the end of elementary school, beginning of middle school, where I kind of learned how to navigate social, like, society
Right.
in
Right.
general,
Right.
where I learned how to talk to people.
Right. To which we are using to great effect.
Right. So yeah, so I moved to like my forever home around 6th grade. So that was like in the middle of middle school, beginning of middle school-ish.
Right.
And that allowed me I made friends with like other people who were into interesting things. Like it wasn't necessarily like your popular kids,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm.
Who
it just
cares?
like they were people
You were
and
discovering your self-worth because
yeah,
you were deciding like to give it to certain people and not give it to other people.
right. Like the thing was is I didn't close myself off. I didn't close myself off to making friends with anyone, but some of those people became my closest friends who I still chat with you know,
Right.
to this day. And it's just like it's not that they were super weird. It just like, there's always like those kids that have less friends than
Right.
like
Oh yeah.
the super popular
I'm
Right.
aware,
kids. And
and
it's
this
like
is gonna sound like a sob
For
story, but
sure.
I'm just saying I'm aware of those kids because those were the kids that would like throw stuff at me at lunch.
oh,
They were like the not
oh.
popular kids, but they made them feel better to like find someone lower than them. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I guess it might have just been like our school experiences were
sure.
slightly different. Mine was more positive.
You're
Like I
also
met people.
you are a more optimistic person. Just by off jump, like you. Even if like people didn't love you, I don't. I feel like you convinced yourself that there will be people. Like they will show up. They may not be
That's
these
true.
people, but they will show up. Whereas like I just convinced myself that nobody's going to love me. Just because it felt like that. Like again, we're
Well,
talking
yeah, you didn't know at the time that you were doing things that made people not love you. It
Right.
wasn't like who you were as a person,
right. And
which like
Yeah.
was something that I could spot as a young kid. I remember this one kid getting up in front of the class and like singing a song that nobody knew, that nobody like we just had time at the end of class and he was like, "I'll sing." And I was literally just like, "Bro, you have no idea like how weird you're being right now." Or there was this girl that I knew who like the clothing choices that she made like were so different than everybody else. Like I'm saying she would wear like a homeschool outfit.
Right.
Oh, that's kind of a general statement, so I should like break it down. But
Yeah.
Either way, like she was very visually different and he was like very different in his actions. And I could see from a very young age how everyone else was responding to that person.
right.
And at the end of the day, they were just being themselves, and it just wasn't something that everyone else was doing at the same time.
Right.
And the school that I went to was it was like a ton of white people, so it was very carbon copy. And my parents and my sisters, who I love, are very traditional American white people with their personalities and their life choices,
Yeah.
So I had 4 different people that I really loved, who really loved me back, that fit that description. So I was like, I got white people covered. And when I go to school, like the white people that I'm interacting with don't really care about me
Right.
at all. And they don't care what I have to say. So like I just started to be interested in things that weren't traditional because I thought that it wasn't for me.
I mean, I think
fair.
I think that's something that kids in general go through. And again, this is the sole reason we're even talking about this is the roots. Where you're coming from is so important to how you like first appear to the world, right? Like if your roots are all tangled and all and you're confused
Sure.
and you aren't picking like the things that you want to represent for yourself, then you're going to pop out of the ground looking different than everyone else. You're going to look like a different plant.
For sure, dude. And I had some freaking roots. My parents live in the house that they bought because
Right.
I was being born. So like my roots are a wise old oak. They're still there.
And honestly, my roots, like I said, my parents are loving as hell, but my mom was just as weird as I am.
They are. Yeah.
My mom is weird. Like,
Yeah.
and
Love it.
I love it about her.
Love
we
it.
have such a great relationship today because we're both weirdos.
Yeah.
And she was already labeled weird because in the 90s having a kid with a black man was weird back then. But like she was weird in other ways too. The kind of music she listened to, the kinds of things she liked to do. Like my mom, believe it or not, was like hitting the club with her sister. Like they would like go to the club and like dance to like Marley Marl and Slick Rick and like she knew all the dance. She taught me the LA Walk. She taught me Electric Slide. She taught me all that stuff. Like and because she's
That's
white,
pretty cool.
yes, I love my mother.
That's
because
pretty cool.
she's white though, it was weird, right? It was weird
yes.
for her to be doing.
Right.
So my mom, by the time I came out and developed a child to mother relationship with her, she was so comfortable being different and so comfortable being herself that it was hard for her to explain to me that it's okay for me to be different and for me to be weird. And then my stepdad, my dad, was very focused on turning me into a man, like because I was a very like sniffle cry about everything kid. So he was very focused.
Aw.
You know,
That was just hilarious.
yeah,
Aw.
I was like the you would
I
call me
love
if you
it.
called me a booger, I would start crying. Like
Mhm.
I was just so sensitive.
Aren't we all though?
I
I
was
was
so sensitive.
crazy sensitive.
But for and again, comes down to the man and woman culture in America, and we'll do an episode on that.
Sure.
But it wasn't a good way for me to be, because then everything affected me. Like I was brought down by the smallest things. So then when the big things hit, it wrecked me.
It's
right?
not a good thing for girls to be either. It's just more accepted.
But I kind of wanted to, now that we've built this picture of my childhood being horrific, I wanted to talk about the turning point of when I decided, screw it. Like, I'm done. I'm done trying to project myself as what you guys want me to be. I'm doing it. I'm just going to do
Hell
what I want to do.
yeah.
Now, again, I was very depressed. It wasn't like I had just one day woke up and was like, oh, everything's better. But there was this thing in my school where if you wore cargo pants, you were weird. It was like weird to wear cargo pants. And again, this is
School
kids.
was weird.
This is kids, bro. Like they pick weird things to
You're
be
right.
sensitive about.
Yo,
right?
and then cut to like later when cargo shorts were all in and
Right.
everybody wore them.
Right. I was ahead of my time.
Ew.
So well, I would wear cargo pants all the time. I loved them because
Kids are
they had
fickle.
so many pockets. I had a pocket for a book.
I
had a
love
pocket
cargo
for another book.
pants.
Right? Like I had
Yeah.
like this is before phones, so I had my fucking CD player in one of my
Cargo
pockets.
pants were weird for girls to wear at my school too. Cargo pants were like you were like a hiker.
Right. So the kids at my school would they would always ask like, what do you got in your pants? And they just like, there was random things, and I wasn't the most hygienic kid, so they would always be like, oh, he has shit in his pockets. He smells like shit. He has shit in his pockets. Shit like that, right?
That's hilarious and super mean.
And me and my mom went to the store to buy pants, and I was crying because I was like, I want what I like, but also like I should get jeans because that's what and my mom was like, do whatever the hell you want to do. Like, don't let them tell you who you are, like how you should dress. Like, they're not your mama. I'm your mama. And I was just like, okay. So we get to the store and I doubled down, bro. I bought like 4 pairs of cargo pants because that's what I like to wear.
right.
And I'm in school and the kids are making fun of me as per usual. And I just like, I don't know. I was just okay with it at that point. I was like, all right, if you're going to make fun of me for wearing cargo pants, then you must really not have anything better to do with your life. Meanwhile, I'm over here with freaking dot hack in one pocket and then freaking my Walkman in the other pocket, or my CD player.
Books and music.
And I'm just sitting here like I had headphones. That's when I started. Middle school, I started wearing headphones
Close
constantly.
to your heart and
Constantly.
present in your pants.
Like if you were making fun of me, I wouldn't half the time I wouldn't even be able to hear you because I was literally just always in my headphones. And it really was a turning point for me because I decided not that I was going to stop letting it affect me, because it did. It still affected me, and I'm sure it affects a lot of people. But I stopped letting it dictate who I was going to be. If I'm going to like anime and manga and I'm going to like this weird stuff, then I'm going to like it. It's them picking on me isn't going to make me stop liking what I like.
right.
And I just didn't understand spending my life doing things that I only kind of like for other people. It just didn't make sense to me. So I joined the football team. I literally was 135-pound 11-year-old, fat as fuck, couldn't run.
Jesus.
I
That's my adult weight, bro.
Bro, I couldn't run.
Still not that heavy.
I couldn't run
Right.
around a
26.
field once. I couldn't run around a field once.
Right.
I would literally throw up during the jog around the field. I would literally, like, I was a mess. And the reason I did it is because I talked to my dad. And he was like, well, I was crying, doing I was crying. And he was like, well, what's your problem? Like, what don't you like about yourself? Like, what are you crying about? And I was like, they're so mean to me. He's like, okay, what they're doing is over there. What are you doing? What don't you like about yourself? And my main thing back then was I was fat. I didn't like being fat. I used to walk around with my
You could
stomach.
do something about that.
I used to walk around with my stomach sucked in all day. Like I was getting ab workouts from sucking in my stomach all day long, constant, all day.
Ooh.
I mean, I did that too, but I imagine if I was like large,
right,
it wouldn't have made much of a difference. So you were doing
didn't.
that just
for
for
me.
your own mindset.
I used to
Like,
walk around.
mine was like, I can fit into these pants versus I can't fit into these pants.
No, this was just for appearances. And I used to walk around with fish lips. Because I used to think it would make me look thinner. It would make my face look more attractive.
I'm sorry you did duck face before duck face was a thing.
I was ahead of my time. Like, people don't understand. I was ahead of my time.
Right.
So he was like if that's your biggest problem, if that's the thing that is hurting you right now, then change it. It is a changeable thing. And I'm just like, how? Like, oh, what? He's like, I don't know, join the football team or something. Because we watched football as a family. Like, we were avid Washington football team fans.
Aw.
So we would watch the games and stuff. And he was just like, play football or something. Like, and again, he didn't have a lot of expectations because I couldn't run to the end of the driveway without crying and throwing up about my feet. But so I joined the football team, and it was, again, like, kids laughed at, like, literally laughed at me when I showed up. Like they were like, you want to play football? And I was like, I mean, play is relative. I want to be here.
I want to be here and run, kind of.
Because I had that mindset of stubbornness, which again, like, was like to a fault, because like where Sashel and Dani kind of assimilated easily, I was assimilating much more rigidly because I was very rigid in the things that I liked. I was like, I'm not changing this. Like, you can tell me it's weird all you want. I'm going to keep doing, whether I'm doing it alone in my room or I'm doing it in homeroom. I don't care. This is what I like. So it made it very rigid. So when I started doing football, that stubbornness came in handy, because even though I was being made fun of, even though I never started a game that year and I puked every time we ran and I would cry because my legs hurt so bad, I kept doing it. I just kept doing it. Because I was not about to again, this is me as a kid, so I wasn't thinking this per se, but just in my head, like, I think about, this is really lame, and I'm warning you now, it's lame, but in my head, I'm like, would Goku stop because people told him to stop? like that's my role. Like,
I feel you.
Like, would Goku stop because someone told him? Would Naruto, like, just give up because he was being laughed at? And, like, that made me feel special. It wasn't necessarily a cure-all for, like, I still was very depressed. I still went through some very hard times, but it gave me that edge where I was just like, keep doing it.
It's why
Just
you didn't
keep
quit the football
going.
team. So
Yeah.
then when you started to see results,
Right.
what happened then?
Yeah, I mean, for me, mine was more or less finding comfort for myself over, like, achieving some goal, because once I found, like, my group of, like, people who I could relate to and hang out with, even though no one else
Right.
was in that group, and this is, like, prior to my end stage where Dani, like Dani's, where
Right.
I was just, like, floating around.
Chameleoning
So
around.
prior to that, I had like 4 friends, and these were the people that I could call, or I could, we sat at lunch together,
Right.
things like that. Like, that was kind of the main thing for me, is did I have people to sit with at lunch? Yes, then I was fine. After that, nothing else mattered. I just wanted to have, like, a lunch table
Right.
to go to every day.
To be able to sit down and have people, like, there that want to talk to you, that have been waiting to talk to you all day. I wanted
Yeah.
that so
Wow,
bad.
it got to the point. Sorry.
You're all right.
I thought I was interrupting.
No, go for it.
It
Go
got
for
to
it.
the point where I sat in the bathroom and ate my lunch, which I'm sure you guys can relate to that, or like it's a shitty feeling, but it really, like, it was twisted. So what happened was I went to the lunchroom and people offered for me to sit at their table. And I was just so sick of being around people that I genuinely didn't, like, mess with. that I would rather be by myself. And that's what made me like kind of upset, was that I'm like, dude, there really isn't people out here that I want to hang out with, I want to be close friends. And what is that about? But then at the same time, like, I was being very closed off. Like, I wouldn't hang out with any weird kids. I didn't even start hanging out with weird kids until I started hanging out with you.
To me, that sounds like, no offense, but you are coming from a place of privilege.
For sure. And
where
not
people wanted to hang out with you.
Not racial privilege, everyone.
No,
just privilege.
Just privilege.
Right.
Just privilege.
Right, because you guys would have given anything for someone to be like, do you want to sit with us? Like, you wanted that.
I've never eaten in a bathroom, mostly because I think that's gross.
It's disgusting.
Same.
Literally same. Like, fuck that.
Personal preferences. Like, you eat in the bathroom, okay, instead of hanging out with all your friends. Like, you make no sense to me. But that's fine. I accept you.
We love you.
But I would literally... There were times where, like, I would sit at a table in the corner and no one would come and sit with me that day, and I would just be eating lunch by myself. You know, and it's kind of sad, but
it's really sad.
But once I had like my group, then I think I was really able to grow as a person. Not only did I get more comfortable being a person,
right,
and talking with people and kind of expressing what I liked. Like you said, that kid who sang, like, I loved singing. Honestly, even as a shy kid, singing was totally different from talking to me. For me. I sang solos in elementary school.
Yep. Whenever they asked who wanted to sing at the end of the class. Boop.
Yeah. But then I wouldn't like make eye contact with people. I would just go up in front and just start singing.
I straight up closed my eyes.
I wouldn't talk to anyone about it. Yeah, I wouldn't talk to anyone about it. Like, it was super scary. Right. But yeah, then I started getting into things that I really liked. Like, middle school was when I started getting into musicals and dancing and
to get
with. And then I found more people who just like, they were like, oh, you like to do this too?
Right.
Like, yes.
And your confidence in what you liked to do drew people to you. Like, that's why I was drawn to you as a friend. Like, early on, from your musical tastes, you were just unapologetic about the kind of music you like to listen to. And it drew me to you because I was going through a struggle at that time where, like, I like to listen to music that a lot of people around me didn't like to listen to. So it was very polarizing at school for me to find someone that's not only older, so wiser, but also like my color, like mixed, like she went through the same kind of polarizing thing that I did. To find someone who's literally like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if your friend's in the backseat. I'm gonna blast this Avenged Sevenfold, and I was just like, so here for it. I was so here for that, and I think that the point of all this, everyone that's listening, the point of what we're talking about is that we all came from very different places. We all came from very different struggles. We all came from very different things. Yet the thing that is connected in all of these stories is that sense of self, that sense of self-worth that we started developing over time. Sashel started developing it from the validation that she was getting doing what she liked to do because she realized she liked to do everything. And then people started coming to, like, literally relating to her. So, like, it was easy for her to, like, connect to people, whereas I didn't have that. But at the same time, I was cultivating my own sense of self by saying, fuck everyone else. I'm going to do what I like to do, and I don't care. And it took longer, but eventually people started gravitating to me for that. Because they're like, oh, you just do whatever the hell you want to do. Oh, I like you. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Nobody's ever said that before, but okay.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think turning it into from something negative, like I was feeling some way about myself as a child, and then kind of like learning that it's okay to try a bunch of different things and to just be into what I'm into. I'm really into music. Like, I'm really into dancing and theater.
Yes.
And that became a huge part
yes.
Of my identity as a person.
Yes.
That had nothing to do with race, and I loved that. even
Yes.
though I'll talk about this a little bit later when we get into like talking about thick skin,
Ah, yeah.
because I have a horror story from
I
from
had I have one.
theater in a school full of white people. Is
I know what you're talking
ooh,
about. Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Oh,
spicy bit. But yeah, the point that we're talking about these negative things in this supposedly positive episode is not to regale you with the horror stories of our youth.
no.
It's literally so that you can see from the evidence, because you guys at this point, it's been 6 episodes, and you can see how we all have so much love and so much uh self-respect and self-worth, and that was
Yeah.
cultivated through these times, right? Like, we talk about them sadly, like they're sad, like they were talking about the lunch table story. Random bit of information about me: until 8th grade I sat alone. Until 9th grade I sat alone at lunch, because they would try and move me from table to table. The teachers would try and move me from table to table, and the kids unequivocally every single time would throw a fit. They would literally be like, no, we don't want him at our table. So I had a table that they cleared off. There's nobody else at this table. They cleared a table just for me. So I had sat by myself for a long time. But it was the reason why I'm even talking about it is that level of pain increased my tolerance. And what I didn't know when I was a kid, and what I think a lot of people don't know until they mature, is that life is a bitch. Like you are
Right.
not, like, you think those kids are mean. Life is gonna just freaking it's gonna come and it's gonna get you no matter who you are, right? So having developed this understanding that sometimes things suck, sometimes people don't like me, sometimes I don't like myself. Like sometimes I just legitimately don't like myself. None of that, at the end of the day, is permanent. None of it.
Right.
It is always subject to change. It is always subject to how I feel and what I'm willing to do about it. That's what my dad said. I don't care how they feel about you. I really don't. I don't care if they think you're a loser. What do you think?
So, Sebastian, would you say that you're like, would you tend more towards like a resentful or like a thankful feeling of like your past, like all these things that have
Up
happened to
until I
you?
moved into your house, resentful as hell. I had a big ass chip on my shoulder, and while it did lead to me doing some pretty amazing things, starting on a varsity team that ended up winning 2 state championships was like unbelievable. Like, my whole family was like, "What? Like what happened?" Starting a band and by myself, literally, and the people that was with, not like just by myself, but
Yeah.
like the
I remember
bandmates.
how you willed that into
Just
existence.
and like that was all from resentment of people trying to tell me that I couldn't be what I wanted to be. But it turned
You literally were like, I'm just gonna do it all. I remember like your schedule at the time because you worked overnights when you
Yeah.
were trying to create a band. So he would go into work at 11 p.m. and he would get out at 7 a.m. And then they would be like, let's have band practice at 11 a.m. And he would stay up and then he would go to band practice and then we would hang out. And then he'd be like, I got to get some sleep before work. And he would do that like almost every day.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the point of to answer Sasha's question, is the resentment turned into thankfulness, because as the chip on my shoulder started getting smaller and smaller, and as I started realizing like I can will this into existence by just being passionate, I started to realize, holy crap, those kids that picked on me for wearing cargo pants and pushed me down the stairs when I was on crutches, I would not have been able to do any of that without them. Like, literally nothing that I've done in my life would have
Right.
come to fruition if I was still the sniveling kid that cried
You
every
still
time
cared
someone
what
called
they
me
thought.
a booger.
Ugh.
Right.
Could you imagine if you were still trying to be their friend to this day?
Hell no. Hell no. Especially
Right.
as the person I
That'd
am
be
now.
terrible.
Hell no. People would hate me. Like I would be in jail, bro. Like, people would downright hate me because I'm just so quick to voice how I feel. And I thank you for that question, Sasha, because I want to ask you the same. Like I feel like you, even though you don't have like the horror story of it, I felt when you were talking about it that distance you felt from people, and you obviously must have cared enough to try and find a solution to fix it. Did you have resentment for those people? Did that push you to try and fix it?
Yeah, before I answer that, I just want to tell you guys a story that I alluded to about theater.
Oh.
Um, so in high school, I was really into theater. I tried out for musicals and plays, and I did like that was like part of my identity, like I said, and it started in middle school. But in high school, so it was the first play that I tried out for, and it was The Miracle Worker. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's the story of Helen Keller.
Oh, that's dope.
Yes. And there is a role uh, in this play named Viney, who is Keller's family slave.
Oh boy, I just got chills. Like I just got
Guess
chills.
guess
When-
what role I got cast as in this?
Helen Keller.
Yeah, no, I got cast as Viney. So
Oh no.
yeah, and being the only person of color, um,
Ooh.
almost in the school,
That
almost.
that would make me mad. That would make me real mad.
Now, I actually got a lot of backlash from this from the other select few people of African American descent in my school for accepting this role. But the thing is at the time, so imagine me 15, 14 years old, I get cast, and that was the goal, right? The goal
Right.
was to get a part.
To be in
And
the
I was
play.
like, I was like, to be honest, if they don't give me this part, while I'm upset that this is the part that they gave me, um, I don't want to let go of this opportunity to kind of further, I mean, at the time, my high school career,
Right. No, I see
right?
what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, if this is going to get me a foot in the door to kind of be into the drama club and stuff like that, I was like, yes, because that was my goal.
Right.
And that's largely how I learned how to live my life. So by the time I was a senior, I got a lead role in the musical, and it was the role I tried out for, but I specifically tried out for the like so it was Thoroughly Modern Millie, which is set in the 20s.
Yeah.
So I'm not a flapper. This body type
Yeah. I know you. Yeah.
doesn't work for that. So I tried out for who? The old wise jazz singer, who is, I mean, traditionally can be played by a white or a black person, but
Right.
it's the only role that's really suitable
Right.
for a black person in the 20s.
Right.
Like, think about it. So then I started to kind of tailor myself, and I learned, and I actually gained a lot of confidence through theater, even though like it was through a lens that was really bad. So it was adults that were doing the casting.
Right.
It
Yes.
wasn't it
Right.
wasn't the kids. So this is coming from the people in charge,
Right.
like full grown adults. And I know they weren't trying to be racist,
Right.
and but it just the result, looking at the results, it ended up that way. Um but the thing is I am super thankful for every um everything that happened, because it really made me who I am today. And now I have such confidence, even though I will say, um, for a long time, that was not true.
Right.
So, I learned to love myself in spite of all of these things. But I mean, when I was still trying, like, to just find people, I kind of latched on to some people who were into more negative lifestyles, and I followed them. And um
It's okay.
because like I wanted to have social connections, I got into some really negative life choices, and I have since brought myself out of them, but it took a long time, a lot of struggle, and
Years, man.
finding some really great people to help me out. So not only like it led me down a path that could have easily been terrible,
Right.
but then I finally got myself to a point like I started college late because when I first started college, it just I wasn't the kind of person who had it wasn't that I didn't have the confidence to go to college, it was
Right.
that my social life was more important at the time, and like I said, it was largely impacted by
Right.
negative influences. So I dropped out of college. But in my mid 20s, I went back because between the 18 and 24, I finally kind of made that leap
Right.
saying, you know, I'm going to unapologetically be myself in a full range. So I was like what you said, when I met you was still in that range,
Hmm.
so I was still in the
Oh, I remember.
process. I went through weird phases trying to get used to myself.
Right.
So now that, you know, uh but eventually I did kind of get that mental strength to not only so I spent a lot of time portraying confidence that wasn't actually there.
Right. Right. Oh my
You
God.
know, like the
Yes.
fake it till you make it kind of
Yes.
mentality. I spent a lot of my teenage years in that kind of situation, and it didn't really work out. So like there were a lot of times like now that I'm bearing my soul to the internet as an adult, which is
Don't look at
uncomfortable
me.
for those of you listening,
Right.
I do want to say that through this, like there were a lot of things about myself that I hid. And it wasn't because like I wanted to suppress my emotions or
Right.
anything like that. It was literally because I like there's certain things you don't tell your parents. Like I
Right.
love my mother. I love
Yep.
her. I trust her. I know she loves me and she'll accept me for everything that I am. But there are some things that she would be heartbroken to know
And you know it.
if sh and I know that, and I really wanted to avoid that.
Same.
And so like I put on a happy face and kind of went through life. And honestly, doing that helped me to kind of get into a point where like my emotional regulation now is boss.
Right. Like
It's
your ability to like, I don't want to say compartmentalize, but just like your ability to take something that's happening in the moment and just kind of go, okay, that I'm going to set that down for a minute. I'm going to do what I need to do, and then when I have the time, I'm going to pick it back up and I'm going to figure it out. Like you are one of the best people I've ever met at doing that.
Yeah, like I'm the type
yeah.
of person who's like, I'm mad right now, so I'm gonna say mad things. I'm sad right now, I'm gonna say sad things. You're the type of person who's like, okay, I'm mad right now, but it's not helpful for my like long-term goals. So I'm gonna put it over there and then dissect it later so I can understand myself better.
Yeah, so I absolutely am so thankful not only because like I was able to like make friends and be comfortable with myself. Also, I've learned some real life skills, I think, because
Oh
of
yeah.
the hardships and adversity that I went through.
So much. So
It's
like
admirable.
if you were to like have a list of somebody like made up of you of all the things that you're like amazing at, or like that you're so super talented, or any of the things that make you special,
Oh my god.
80% of that list at least is like from the shit you went through. Like hands down. Hands down, man. Like
Yeah, literally. Like people are like, "Oh, I love that you're like the life of the party, but you're also someone who I can like talk to on a deep level and you're not judgmental." And I'm like, literally all because like I have learned to be that way. Was I naturally this way? No, because as you knew as a child, I didn't even want to raise my hand to answer a question that I absolutely knew the answer to, just
Right.
because I didn't want people to judge me.
Right.
Now I'm over here like, be you,
Yeah.
do you,
That's
let me do me, but also like,
right.
let's do us together
When we
and
were
see how
talking
that
about
is.
what
Which makes for a
episode,
good time.
when we were talking about what episode we wanted to do this week, I just hearing Sashel speaking about like, you know, the topics we could or whatever, it made me in my head think back to like, holy crap, man, like the conversations we've had where we just bear the things that are wrong with us so casually. And then together without any judgment or without any like we work through it and healthily decide what the next
Hell yeah.
course of action is. And like that's so rare. That's such a rare mindset to have. But I think that if you live your life in fear of what other people think of you, you're never going to get to that point where you are honest with yourself. When you are completely and utterly honest with yourself, and if you're not honest with yourself, how are you going to achieve the things that you want to achieve? It really hits me home. Like even that story about you being the slave in the play, like, you know, that makes me angry. That makes me really
It was
angry.
a controversial. It made a lot of
Right.
people of color in my school angry. Well, not a lot because there weren't a lot,
But it
but
doesn't make me angry because you played the role. It makes me angry that somebody shoehorned you into that role. Somebody literally was like, "You're the best this." And for me, I would have to say, having known you, that can't be true. That literally just can't be true. Like there are so many other roles that I know you would have killed, and and that's the thing to me that's what made me resentful. That's what made me hateful, was people trying to pigeonhole me before they knew who I was, before they knew what I was capable of. Now, all my life, I was called a burnout. Like people saw the decisions I was making, and they were like, "There's no way this kid could ever possibly succeed at anything. He's lazy. He's always
I've been there.
right.
I've
He's
been
always."
there.
And the thing is, when you start to believe that about yourself is when they win. When you start to pigeonhole yourself is when they win. And for me, I would rather have died. Like that's extreme, but I proved it.
Sorry, I think inherently, like, that's the best thing about making it through any kind of adversity in society is saying, I'm not going to let other people dictate who I am or how I'm going to live my life, how I think about myself. And I think that that was it was like growing pains
Right.
that you had to go through, except like for some people, those growing pains, not easier
Right.
but different,
Different.
and something that is more easily avoidable because, as you like to say, they don't wear it on their skin, right?
Yeah.
They can put it in their pocket.
It can be hidden,
Right.
whereas ours can't. And I think that that's the only really unique part of the experience, is that there's no real way that we can hide it. So, for example, even if Dani was a super nerd, she could pretend that she's not, and it would be believable.
Mm.
Whereas if I pretended that I was white, you'd be like, stop being stupid.
Stop
Like,
being stupid.
Do you need glasses?
right, like, very obvious to me that that's not true.
Right.
Right now, you're just lying.
Right.
Whereas, and
right.
everyone knows, and everyone knows. So, it's just like a slightly different experience. But at the same time, like I said, I am so thankful for everything that I've gone through. And I think that even though it took a long time to get to this point, like, even it was into adulthood before I finally found like the level of comfort in myself that I was able to, maybe like me as a teen doing something like this,
Right. Same.
telling people the truth about my inner feels all the time.
Same.
never would have happened. Never. Never. But like it's a different timetable for everyone, and I think that, like, for example, it took me a really long time. Like, now I'm in a really good place in my life, but I'm also a full-fledged adult.
Right. Right.
Like,
And
you know.
sometimes you can't help but think like, damn, if I'd just chosen this sooner, I'd be even better by this point. But that's the thing, man. That's the beauty of this episode is your journey. Each individual journey that anyone is taking is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Like, you dwelling on whether or not things could have been better or should have been better is literally just a waste of energy because you can't change it. All you can change, I think. Hold on, I don't know if this was my parents, but someone told me this. All you can you can't change what people think about you. Like, it's a waste of energy. You can only change how you react, what it does to
Yes.
you, right? And that is such a truth for me that it is now like my life. Like, that's my motto. Like, all the negativity, all that extra shit is over there. I am living my journey. I am living my life, and I am so happy. Like, dude, I can't even. Sashel knows because she met me when I was just sadness.
So
I
depressed.
was sadness
Yeah,
personified, bro. I was the
you
most
were
depressed
you were
person,
just a giant rain cloud.
right? All the time because I felt like and this is still a fear that I have today. I just manage it better. But I was so afraid that I was going to be alone forever because every meaningful relationship that I ever made, I ruined. And it was so aware to me, like I was so aware of it that every relationship I was currently making was being tainted by it. Because it was like I
Yeah.
was forcing these relationships to be more serious than they needed to be because I felt like, well, if you can't be serious about this relationship, then you're just going to leave like everyone else. And that turned me into like this
You put
storm
pressure.
cloud. Right. It turned me into this person nobody ever wanted to be around. And I am honestly so grateful to your brother for, and he probably never knows this and he doesn't watch this podcast. So I was so grateful to him
Right.
for showing me that someone could completely live outside of that possibility. Like, to Vo,
Yeah.
it seemed effortless to him to just be himself, to just be Vo
Unapologetically all the
all
time.
the
That's
time.
actually something that I was always aware of with my brother as well. And he was a good role model for me for my emotional well-being. Like,
Thanks, Vo.
thank you, Vo. Even though I think I leveled it up.
Right.
I made it work for me because me being exactly like him would never work.
No, that would be weird.
Uh,
But like, it's
but
just like
I
anything.
took
If
some
someone gives you
tips.
a recipe, you're gonna tweak it. You're gonna make it your own. You got
Yeah.
it.
But I definitely took some tips out of his book and just decided, being myself was the best option. And to be honest, I would advise kind of everyone to take that journey, but also, even if bad things are happening to you and you're being kind of ostracized, give it some time and a little bit of effort, to be honest, and just it'll
It'll
change.
change. And you know what?
It'll
I think that
change.
the best thing about this podcast is that we have an example of it right here. I feel like when I met Dani, she was in the middle of tearing herself between many different things. She knew what she wanted, but then also she knew what everyone else wanted from her,
Mm.
and she was trying to make it all work. And Dani, I would love to hear from you, like how that's going and like the journey that you've taken for over the last 7 years.
It's still going. It's definitely a struggle because
Okay.
It's life, man.
I I have a hard time like knowing I don't personally think that
Microphone here.
I'm at the end of my journey. Like, I definitely still have a hard time doing things that I like to do if I know that other people are going to laugh at it, judge it. And I think that what happens is it builds up like this desire to share who I am inside. And all the excitement or the emotion of like getting that chance will actually limit my ability to express myself. And I relate a lot to what you were saying when you were 5. Like that 5-year-old you that like couldn't raise their hand is something that I have been experiencing lately through my adulthood. I grew up just like, I'm fine being me. I'm comfortable with that. And all of you have it wrong. And now that I'm older, I'm starting to realize that when someone judges you, regardless of how it makes you feel, they are telling you a truth. Like whether or not, like, let's say someone is judging me because I always bring in food to work. I'm like the only person. I show up with like a full 7-Eleven of snacks and treats for myself, right?
You are the hardest snacker.
Yes, you are the snack queen.
And honestly, like every single day, multiple people have something to say about it to this day. And what I do struggle with is not internalizing that and asking myself if I should change. Like, okay, should I stop being like that? This is something that makes me stand out. This is something that makes me different. I started to think that like anything that I was getting from people was judgment. And I stopped realizing that what some people are telling me is that they love that about me.
Mm-hmm.
All I noticed was that someone is saying to me, hey, this is something I noticed that you do. And like I would just automatically make it a negative thing. And that like negative mindset is something that I've cultivated over the years. So I really struggle with that self-worth or that ability to go like, well, this is me. I like this. I'm really good at knowing that I like it, but I'm really bad at expressing it because it's way easier to hide it at this point. I've been doing it for 26 years.
Right.
Even though I know that it doesn't really make me happier, I continue to do it, and then it continues to make negative waves throughout my life. But I was really excited to have this conversation because I know the both of you pretty well, and I know that you both are in a very like different place, and you went through what I'm going through at a younger age where you didn't have like the same benefits that I had, and you got through it. So like being able to like hear and learn from your stories, it's huge. And that's what I learned. Like, that's what I am learning is that all those people that I said, no, I don't want anything to do with you, like have something to share. And the more that I try and learn from other people, like the more positive I become.
That's adorable. I love you.
I will say, as an adult, I totally seek out weird people. Those people who are not living your traditional, those are my people.
Same.
Like, hearts, I love you all.
I say this all the time. I am interested in interesting people.
But also, if you're out there looking to expand your social circle, get to know people first. Have a conversation. If it's not worth it, it's not worth it, and that's fine. Move on to the next, because there are so many people who you will find are worth it.
As my good buddy would say, it's fine, dude. It's fine, dude. Like, it's fine, man. Like anyone and everyone can add to your life. Like, don't think otherwise. But being honest with yourself and knowing who is going to add something positive and who's going to add something negative there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with knowing yourself. There's nothing not wrong with knowing your self-worth and what it's worth to give to get.
Yeah. And also knowing what you bring to the table, because there are some days where, to be honest, the only thing I'm bringing to the table is basic, and And that's what I'm serving today.
That's what's on
Hot
the
or
menu.
cold.
That's what you're
Literally.
getting.
What you want? You want basic? That's what you got today. But then, like, there's sometimes where I'm willing to put in some effort, even into like to any relationship, and kind of like show people who I am. And you just have to know that some people change on a day-to-day
Right.
basis, and that's okay as well.
Year to year. I have met people that I didn't like years ago and found that their life has beaten the shit out of them since last time I saw them, and then they're a completely different person. Like
Yeah.
off jump, completely different person. And that is honestly, and we're kind of getting to long side, but that is honestly one of my favorite things about being a human. One of my favorite things about being a person is that there's something called the human potential.
Yes.
Which in my heart and in my mind, I believe that no matter who you are today, the potential that you have to be more than that or different or greater is 100%. There is literally a 0% margin for failure if you're looking to change. But not everyone can be everyone can be vulnerable and honest. Sashel was talking about being afraid of being vulnerable on the internet. That is so real. That is so real. Putting these episodes up, editing them, and putting them up for me, my heart is racing every time because I'm like, I don't know if I want to share this with people. But I've gotten to the point in my life, and my co-hosts, I hopefully agree because they're here, where
I almost cried today.
Yes,
Okay.
seriously.
Like you saw, I was like,
yes, and
having a moment.
it's important because we want more people to be okay with doing that for themselves. I want more people to come up to me and be like, I was gonna say something about the weather, but honestly, dude, I'm just in a really tough spot and I don't like myself and I really want to. If you said that to me, I would clear my schedule. We would go find a restaurant and we would talk because your human potential in my eyes is so much. You are special to me if you are willing to be that human connection. And in the days of technology where everyone is, putting all their business on social media and whatnot, it's gotten harder to be honest. Like there are a lot of people who are willing to share, but they're sharing the edited part, the part that they put in their brain first, cut out all the pieces that they think other people are going to judge them for, and then put out their truth. Like that's not what we do here. I had to explain to somebody that I love that it has nothing to do with them. Like it's not about you. It seems that way because you are you, but it is really just me being honest. That's why we have the disclaimer on this podcast, because we don't want to make a podcast that's edited towards certain people or that has a political agenda. I just want to tell my story, and I just want these lovely, awesome people who I have fallen in love with to tell their stories too. And for the people listening out there, bro, I want to hear your story too. Like I want everyone to tell their story because it is that important. You are that important. Period.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, even if you're not comfortable, like I know we're over here on the internet just bearing it all for everyone.
I'm sweating.
Right? But the first step, honestly, like I said, this would be really hard to do in high school, but I was able to do it to myself. I was able to, even if I was alone in a room journaling, it was still like becoming self-aware is a journey in and of itself.
Yes.
Learning about yourself is part of the journey. Now that I have been completely honest with myself, I am a lot more comfortable, we'll say. Still not comfortable.
Right.
Being honest with all of you. So
and we love you for it, Nuna.
Yeah. So even if you don't want to share it with another human yet, at least share it with yourself.
Yes.
Like, and that will help
That's
with
where I'm at.
the human potential as well.
I need to share it with myself. And like it's just seeing you guys live your life and be people that I admire reminds me it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely, and it's a journey, like, I'm not like this every day, there are some days that are tougher than
Whoo!
others.
Bro,
Like,
yesterday I was ready to put a hole through a wall, and I haven't done that in years. I was yesterday. I was on some. I was on some yesterday. That's so
yeah.
true. That like, even though we're sitting here trying to say like, oh look how far we've come and look at it. I think it's really important that you all know that like we aren't perfect. Like things
Yeah.
happen. Things happen. I wake up sometimes and I'm laying in bed, and you can ask Dani. I'm one of the most productive people you'll ever meet. I hop right out of bed and get to work like that. I don't diddle in the morning.
Yes.
But then some days
It's
I do.
insane.
Some days I do. Some days I literally sit in bed for 4 hours on Instagram, knowing I have shit that needs to get done, knowing I have shit that I promises that I made that I need to keep, and I can't get myself out of. I just can't pull myself together, and that is important. Those days are important because I'm gonna share a personal philosophy that might get me in some hot water, but this is my own experience. Depression is a disease. It is a medical thing.
Mm.
But how you handle it doesn't always have to be, right? So for me, when depression started being less of a uncontrollable monster in my life and started being more like a pet that I have to feed sometimes, was when I realized that happiness, the opposite of depression, is an emotion. And if you think of all of your other emotions, they're not constant. They don't stay. They visit and then they go away. You're angry for a little. You're sad for a little. You're hungry until you eat. Like, happiness is an emotion. You are not going to experience it every second of every day. Now, that might sound sad, but this is the kicker. This is the part where it becomes great. So is depression. So is your convincing yourself that you're not good enough. It is just here to visit. And if you
Temporary.
can be aware of that while it's happening, it turns from a monster into a puppy. It turns from the worst thing that you've ever experienced to something manageable that sometimes I even use to like if I'm depressed,
Right.
then it's like, okay, well, today's my day off then. Like I'm not doing work today. Like I am not in the mindset to do productive things. So I'm going to eat Doritos, watch WandaVision, pick my belly button, and like not give a shit about anything today because I am acutely aware of the fact that I'm depressed. And like I think that's so healthy. I think people trying to shove their depression in their back pocket are only really shooting themselves in the foot because now you're keeping it. You're keeping it around. It's staying around longer now. It's in the back of your mind constantly. So like that's where like my siren song, my call to arms or whatever the hell you want to call it is that don't try to be happy all the time. All that you're going to do
That's
is
unrealistic.
disappoint
Yeah.
yourself. That's all you're going to do. And come on, let's be real guys. It's life. Plenty of disappointment to go around. And we don't need any more of that to live life. What you do need more of is understanding and honesty. Be honest with yourself. Know yourself. Know what you're worth. Know who you love. Know what you like. And then honesty is going to lead you to the things you don't. But you know what?
Right.
How are you going to fix a problem if you don't know it exists? How are you going to solve these problems if you are avoiding them?
And how are you going to stop going down paths you don't like if you don't first take the time to figure out what you do?
Or where you're going?
Yeah, that repetitive behavior, absolutely. And I do want to say, while mild depression is easily treatable,
Right.
if you have anything serious going on, find someone to talk to,
Please.
whether it's a
Please.
professional or just a friend.
Bruh, if you DM our Instagram at BuyuPro on Instagram,
We will talk to you.
BuyuYeopro,
We'll chat.
BuyuYeopro, we'll talk to you. I'm not even kidding. I love.
We're desperately waiting for someone to start commenting so that we can interact with them. It's gonna be dope.
I tell me your truth. Tell me what you're afraid of. Tell me the things that you hate, and I will be honest with you. That's it. That's all I'm promising. I will be honest with you. But here's the thing. That is valuable. It is so valuable in this day and age where our phones lie to us every single day. Honesty is the most important commodity among humans. If I love you, I will be honest with you, because to me, love and honesty, hand in hand, bud. Hand in hand. If you lie to me, you don't love me.
I appreciate your take, Sebastian. I think it's very rare and unique, and it's needed.
I appreciate you, Danielle.
I appreciate both of you.
Look at all this love.
Appreciate
And
you,
then
Sasha.
it's a good spot to end today's.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think that speaks to the fact that, like we said, this is a journey. Everyone's on it. We're all in different places. So, I mean, Dani, I'm sure you'll do some self-reflecting after today's conversation.
Yes.
We're all going to
think
do some self-reflecting.
This was self-reflecting. I just don't think that it's a one-person problem. I think that I was very privileged. I was very lucky growing up in my life, and I still struggle with finding that uniqueness, finding that identity, and finding my place. I think that you guys had such a hard time in the beginning. Like, to be 5 years old and to be socially anxious or to be like ostracized and like treated poorly is something that would have crushed me. I know it. Actually, I don't know it. I know that I didn't have to experience it. Right. I would have been really, really sad. And so I'm sure you guys were too. But it didn't kill you. You're still here.
Right.
Like, being cast as a slave for Sashel, like, didn't stop her from pursuing her love of musicals, to the point where by the time that she was a senior, even though they was still acting up, she got to be Muzzy from Thoroughly Modern Millie, which is like sass and all the Broadway. And if you like being a musical person, like, that's a great character to get to be. And now she's had that life experience.
I think something that Dani said just now that really stuck with me, and I'm going to end on this, is you're not alone. We're doing this together. And since we started this channel on the internet, that means we are opening these up to anyone and everyone. You don't have to do this alone. Whether it's just listening to the podcast or reaching out, messaging us, or even just having the courage now to go find someone in your own life to go and talk to, you have people who care about you.
Yeah,
because
bro.
you are a human, and therefore you have the potential.
It feels like you're alone. I think that everybody feels that way. But
I
it's
did.
just not. It's a feeling.
It'll go away.
Let's kind of bring humanity together. Let's bring humanity back, guys.
Humanity! Bounce
The
my titties for
humanity
humanity.
tribe. we can have the Hummins tribe.
We have the Hummins tribe.
Yeah, so
Actually,
if you're a human, you qualify as being not alone because you're in our group.
that's actually, I'm gonna end on this point. I know we've said this 3 times now, but I'm gonna end on this point because I wanted to bring this up. We decided today. We don't know exactly how we're gonna spell it, but we decided today that the listeners, because now we have some, we decided on a name that is going to keep us and you all in the same group because we're all this. We decided to call you guys cultures. Now, the small definition of this, we'll do a whole thing in another video. Small definition
Basically Hummins.
is that a culture is intricate and it's complicated and it has a lot of layers to it. It has a lot of nuances. And I don't see, and my co-hosts agree with me, why an individual isn't a culture. Because you are just as complex, just as layered, and just as important as any culture that exists on this planet. And with that, my cultures, stay cultured. Bye.
Thank you.
Ooh, I got a little spicy there. I'm sweating. It's hot.
Oh, Lord.